جاء رجل صلى الله عليه وسلم عن وقت صلاة الصبح قال فسكت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم حتى إذا كان من الغد فصلى.
I don't think it's a further, is it? حتى إذا كان من الغد صلى الصبح.
حتى إذا كان من الغد فصلى الصبح ثم صلى الصبح من الغد.
No, just حتى إذا كان من الغد صلى الصبح. إذا
ثم صلى
حتى إذا كان من الغد صلى الصبح إذا حين نعم أحسن الله عليك حين
طلع الشمس.
أيوة
ثم
حين I knew Fajr was in there somewhere. حين طلع الفجر. نعم.
ثم صلى الصبح من الغد.
من هذا؟
ثم صلى الصبح من الغد.
من الغد حين No بعد I'm sorry بعد. نعم.
فقال أين السائل عن وقت الصلاة؟ فقال ها أنا ذا يا رسول الله. فقال ما بين هذين وقت.
نعم ما بين هذين وقت. دقيقة معنا. Make sure you don't need anything. That door is locked.
He's cheating.
Yeah?
He's making on some
Cheap?
You can tell when they
I
do
heard
this.
the door open, I think, over there.
Include ovaj hadis o nijetu immunization.
Koji nije?
To ovdje u ovoj vezi.
It's all y'all remember up to 5, right? We knock out all 5 real quick. قال أبو مصعب حدثنا مالك بن أنس عن ابن شهاب أن عمر بن عبد العزيز أخر الصلاة يوما فدخل عليه عروة بن الزبير فأخبره أن المغيرة بن شعبة أخر الصلاة يوما وهو بالكوفة فدخل عليه أبو مسعود الأنصاري فقال ما هذا يا مغيرة أليس قد علمت أن جبريل نزل فصلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ثم صلى 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 رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ثم قال بهذا أمرت فقال عمر لعروة اعلم ما تحدث يا عروة إن جبريل هو أقام لرسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وقت الصلاة قال كذلك كان بشير بن أبي مسعود يحدث عن أبي قال عروة ولقد حدثتني عائشة رضي الله تعالى عنها زوج النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يصلي العصر والشمس في حجرتها قبل أن تظهر. قال مالك
حدثنا أبو مسعب.
لا بس قال مالك. We know it's أبو مسعب.
حدثنا مالك عن زيد بن أسلم عن عطاء بن يسار أنه قال جاء رجل إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فسأله عن وقت صلاة الصبح قال فسكت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عنه حتى إذا كان من الغد صلى الصبح حين طلع الفجر ثم صلى الصبح من الغد بعد أن أسفر ثم قال أين السائل عن وقت الصلاة فقال ها أنا ذا يا رسول الله فقال ما بين هذين وقت.
نعم. عن مالك
حدثنا قال مالك حدثنا مالك.
No, قال مالك. So why do we say that? Because he didn't tell us. And we're not mentioning the whole chain. Right? So you either got to say قال Abu Mus'ab, Abu Mus'ab, or if we know it's Abu Mus'ab we're doing, we don't even need to say him, we can just say قال مالك. Well, إيش يسمى هذا النوع من الحديث? What type of hadith is this? Anybody know? What type of hadith is this?
Which one?
What we say قال مالك. It's called mu'allaq. Just like Bukhari rahimahullah would do a mu'allaq. That's us. We're doing the same thing. هذا حديث معلق. قال مالك. Right?
قال مالك عن يحيى بن سعيد عن عمرة بنت عبد الرحمن عن عائشة زوج النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إن كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ليصلي الصبح فينصرف النساء متلفعات بمروطهن ما لا يعرفن من
ما يعرف
من الغلس.
نعم. قالت رضي الله تعالى عنها.
قالت أنها قالت.
أي نعم. أي.
حدثنا أبو مصعب قال حدثنا مالك.
ما حدثك. ما حدثك.
Just say
Abu Mus'ab
قال مالك.
didn't narrate to you the hadith.
He didn't say.
He didn't say it to you. When you say حدثنا,
Oh.
you're saying he told us. Yeah. قال أبو مصعب.
قال أبو مصعب
أيوة.
حدثنا مالك عن زيد بن أسلم عن عطاء بن يسار أنه قال جاء
وأن
وعن
I'm sorry, Zayd ibn and Ata bin Yasar.
عن بسر بن
Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah.
عن بسر بن سعيد وعن الأعرج عن أبي هريرة رضي الله يحدثون عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم
أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال. يلا.
نعم قال نعم
أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال.
من أدرك ركعة من الصبح قبل أن تطلع الشمس فقد أدرك الصبح ومن أدرك ركعة من العصر قبل أن تغرب الشمس فقد أدرك العصر.
نعم. عمر. أيوة.
قال حدثنا مالك قال حدثنا أبو مصعب قال حدثنا مالك قال أبو مالك
قال مالك. أيوة.
عن نافع مولى عبد الله بن عمر أن عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه كتب إلى عماله
أن نافع مولى عبد الله بن عمر.
أن عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه كتب إلى عماله إن أهم أمركم عندي الصلاة فمن حفظها وحفظ عليها حفظها.
Yeah, I do the same thing. Men. Yeah, no
There's
fa.
another, I think, narration. That
There's
has
another one that has fa and it also has ilayya. So I get them confused
This
too.
one has.
Yeah.
حفظ عليها حفظ دينه ومن ضيعها فهو لما سواها أضيع. ثم كتب أن صلوا الظهر إذا كان فيء ذراع إلى أن يكون ظل أحدكم مثله والعصر والشمس بيضاء نقية قدر ما يسير الراكب فرسخين أو ثلاثة والمغرب إذا غربت الشمس
والمغرب
إذا غربت الشمس والعشاء إذا غابت الشفق إلى ثلث الليل
إذا غاب الشفق.
والعشاء إذا غاب الشفق إلى ثلث الليل فمن نام فلا نامت عينه فمن نام فلا نامت عينه والصبح والنجوم بادية مشتبكة.
ممتاز. الحمد لله. فالحمد لله هذا هو الحديث الثالث في طبعتنا طبعة دار التأثير. This is the third hadith as it relates to the print that we have in front of us, the print of Dar al-Ta'sil.
I remember some of the benefits from the first two. What we did.
ممتاز. يلا.
You want me to start?
Start.
Okay, inshallah. The Amara, if we didn't use.
So we do it this way. Ask it as a question.
What do you mean?
The benefit that you want to present, ask it as a question to see which of us can. All of you all should have benefits from that we did previously. Ask a question to see who remembers something about it.
Okay, I'll bring two.
Okay.
Is this mu'allaq right here after Malik and before Anna Umar? Is it mu'allaq?
Oh, you're talking about the hadith of Urwa?
Yeah,
The second hadith.
The first hadith.
The first hadith.
Yeah. حدثنا مالك
عن الزهري.
Is that mu'allaq right there? And is it an Umar? Is it mu'allaq right there?
Okay, so I'll re-ask your question if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Malik narrating and az-Zuhri. What kind of hadith is this? Because it's not Malik. The person said Malik. He's wrong. It's not Malik.
Didn't see Zuhri.
No, Malik is from the major students of az-Zuhri. but there's still a type of hadith that we talked about last time that this is. Does anybody remember? Not mursal. It's not mawquf because we have our isnad at the bottom. And it's even more apparent when we talk about az-Zuhri on Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. We talked about it there as well. Most of the class last time was about that. Not marfu'. What's not mawquf? Mudallas or mu'an'an. We're going to talk about it again today.
Yeah, more.
Right? The person that you heard, he called it mu'allaq,
No,
right?
I probably.
No, you didn't hear wrong. But he called it mu'allaq. It's not mu'allaq. Mu'allaq is when you mention a chain, when you mention a statement without a chain. Right? Mu'allaq, a ta'liq, is that you mention something on somebody and you just leave it out there. But you don't do ta'liq on your teacher. Right? If you have a teacher, what you say about your teacher is only one of two things. It is either connected or it is what they call mudallas. And that's what we spent a lot of time talking about last time. A hadith is mudallas, right? تدليس الإسناد كأن يسقط من حدثه ويرتقي بعن وعن أو قال يوحي متصال واختلف في أهله فرد مطلقا ثقف. So al-mudallas is that a person makes you think they heard from their teacher that which they didn't hear from their teacher.
So did Malik do mudallis?
Is Malik a mudallis? If Malik was a mudallis, we would need to hear Malik say, I heard. But did Malik ever do tadlis? No. So when a person doesn't do tadlis, if they say an or an or qala, it's as if they're saying haddathana, right? وَصَحَّهُ وَصْنَ مُعَنْعَنٍ سَلِمٍ مِنْ دُلْسَةِ الرَّاوِهِ وَاللِّقَاءُ عُلِمٍ. Right, al-Iraqi says, and they made authentic any hadith that has an in it, mu'an'an, when the person who narrated it is safe from tadlis. So Malik didn't do tadlis. طيب Zuhri,
So it's like he said hadathana.
it's like he said haddathana. طيب Zuhri did tadlis. Oh no,
Abu Hisham.
not tadlis. Zuhri,
Ibn Hisham.
Hisham, Zuhri. When we say
Maybe
Zuhri,
they don't know.
they know Zuhri. Muhammad ibn Muslim ibn Ubaidullah ibn Abdullah ibn Shihab az-Zuhri. Zuhri did irsal, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But did he do tadlis? I don't know of Zuhri to have done tadlis, but he did irsal, which is what we're going to talk about today. And then, is this something that Zuhri was there for? Is this story that he's telling us in the first hadith something Zuhri was there for? Right? Did he see Urwa and Umar ibn Abdul Aziz having this conversation? If he didn't see them, then we would say Zuhri is a mudallis, because Urwa and Umar ibn Abdul Aziz are from his teachers. And the only thing you can have from your teacher is what? A connected chain or tadlis. If the person is your teacher, the only thing that you're going to have from him is a connected chain, or you're going to be somebody who does tadlis. But we mentioned in this hadith that Zuhri witnessed the conversation between Umar and Urwa. He was there for it. And so this hadith is connected all the way. The chain of this hadith is Malik and Zuhri and Umar, Urwa, Bashir, Abi Mas'ud, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's the chain of this hadith, right? The chain, the rest of the chain comes at the end. And then Urwa mentions the second hadith on him, on his auntie Aisha. Did you have anything from the hadith that you wanted us to remember? The last hadith? Anything that you wanted us to remember about it? Hadith Zuhri. And yeah, the first one.
The first one?
Yeah, anything you wanted us to remember about it? Oh, you said you had two. Go ahead.
That was the second one.
Okay.
Mu'annan. Yeah.
Come on. Okay.
I have one.
Go ahead.
فهذا الحديث مثال عملي على أن السنة بيان القرآن.
نعم. ممتاز. هذا الحديث مثال عملي And it's a practical example of how the Sunnah clarifies the Quran. Allah says in the Quran what? إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ كَانَ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ كِتَابًا مَوْقُوتًا. The salat upon those who has iman is a prescribed time. أَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ أَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ أَقَامُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ. Right? أَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ, Allah says in ayah, أَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَالَّذِينَ أَقَامُوا الصَّلَاةَ. طيب, how do we establish it? We need to know how. We need to know what time to do it. We wouldn't know that in the Quran without the Sunnah. For that reason, the Salaf, they used to say, As-Sunnah ahwaj ila al-Quran. I'm sorry, al-Quran ahwaju ila sunnah min as-Sunnah ila al-Quran. The Quran is more in need of the Sunnah than the Sunnah is of the Quran. Right? Because if a person only had one of the two, well, alhamdulillah, we have both. We don't have to deal with this supposed conversation. But if a person only had one, which one is going to give them more applicable guidance? The Sunnah. Right? A person who, and this is why we know the misguidedness of those individuals who are called al-Quraniyun. Right? They only take the one. As opposed to the individuals who are called what? Who's on guidance? What's the name of that group? Ahl Sunnah. You got the Quraniyun or what? Balun. They're misguided. Even though their attachment is to the what? To the Quran. But then you have Ahl Sunnah, our attachment, even though we're attached to the Quran as well, why is our main moniker, our main name, not Ahl al-Qur'ani wa Sunnati wal Jama'ah? Our main name is Ahl Sunnah. Because the Sunnah, the person who has it, has more applicable knowledge than the one who has the Quran only. And the Quran is more in need of the Sunnah than the Sunnah is in need of the Quran. You got anything? Anybody else have anything from last time?
Can you repeat that in Arabic?
As-Sunnah, al-Quran ahwaju ila al-Sunnah min as-Sunnah ila al-Quran. Ahwaj. Has more of a need. And I have a simple one, right? You guys, mashallah, you tulab al-ilm. What's Malik's name?
Malik ibn Anas ibn Malik ibn ibn Abi Amr.
Naam, mumtaz. Asbahi. When was he born? 93. When did he die?
179.
179. What was his nickname? Imam ad-Dar al-Hijrah. And Shafi'i gave him another one. And Najm. Right? Those are some of the benefits that we covered the first time. Anything else? Muhammad? Anything you want us to know? No, the salat that was mentioned was salat al-Asr. And it shows it in the hadith. That's why he mentions the hadith of Aisha about أن كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يصلي العصر والشمس في حجرتها قبل أن تظهر. ما معنى تظهر? What is the meaning of تظهر?
For the sun.
We mentioned three things. Three ways to understand تظهر.
That's the room.
Okay, that's Aisha's room.
This is the first one. The sun was right here.
Okay.
قبل
Before it got above. قبل أن تظهر.
Second one is
before it got above.
right here.
Uh-huh.
When it moved.
قبل أن تظهر قبل أن تذهب. Before it went out.
And the third one is when the sun got over here and the shadow was touching the wall, right?
قبل أن تظهر يعني they add the word قبل أن تظهر الفي before the shadow got seen on the other wall.
Before it reached the other wall.
Right. Before the shadow got seen, i.e. on the other wall.
I'm not getting that.
So,
It's so easy when you draw a picture, man. It's so easy.
the hadith of Aisha, indeed the Prophet ﷺ used to pray Asr, وَالشَّمْسُ فِي حُجْرَتِهَا. I think last time I said that they said her room was a meter. That is incorrect. Her room was qama. It was the height of a man. Right? So her room was small. So we have a man. You draw better than me. Your carpet is more cleaner.
This is the house.
Right? The house is about the size of a man. The word ظهر, it can have two meanings. To be above or to leave. We could say, right? أنت الظاهر فليس فوقك شيء. When we talk about Allah, أنت الظاهر, so there's nothing above you. That means Allah is, al-Zahir means above. And ظهر can also mean to come out or to leave. قد ظهرت من أفواههم. It has come out of their mouths, right? That which is evil. So the word ظهر can mean two things. So what does it mean in this hadith? Scholars disagree, but the end result is all the same. You have the sun. You have the room. You see the room? Can you see the room? Let's see. We need a board. Right? Can you see my room? Okay, let's use this. That is the room. Right?
Are we looking from the top?
We're looking from above, just like we are. We're looking at the room, but we're looking at a 2D image. You know, above, top, below. I don't understand these things. We're looking at a 2D image, right? This is the sun. This is Dhuhr. Right? This is Dhuhr. East, west. When the sun is at Dhuhr, where is it at? It's just in the middle of the sky. Then, as the sun moves, we get to Asr. The Prophet ﷺ used to pray Asr. وَالشَّمْسُ فِي حُجْرَتِهَا. The sun would be in her room. I.e., what would be in her room? The sun's light. It would be in her room.
Complete sun would be
No. The sunlight.
Sunlight.
Right? The sun would be, or the corner of the sun. There would be sun in her room still. قَبْلَ أَن تَظْهَرَ. Before the sun actually got above her room. So the sun would be in her room, i.e. from this angle, before it got above the room as it was setting. You see what I'm saying? So when would he pray Asr? At the earliest possible time. Because the sun would be in her room, but not above her room. And if you look at Aisha's room, right, the Prophet's masjid faces what direction? The Prophet's masjid faces what direction? Faces Mecca, so it faces the south. So if we were in the Prophet's masjid, for example, if I am in the Prophet's masjid, I am facing this direction. That's the Qibla, right? Aisha's room is on which side? Right? If I'm at the mimbar, if I'm at the roll, Aisha's room is on this side, right? So on my left. So what direction is that? If I'm facing south, what direction is this? West, right? Because if I'm facing north, right? So if I'm facing south, this is west. So Aisha's room is to the west of the masjid. And the sun is in her room before the light is in her room before the sun gets there. So the Prophet would pray Asr at the early time. قَبْلَ أَن تَظْهَرَ, i.e. before it got above her room. So if you looked up, right, what kind of ceilings did they have? They didn't have these kind of ceilings. They had date palms tattered together, right? So the sun, you would be able to see out of the ceiling. That's why when the Prophet, if it rained, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the masjid would have what in it? Mud. Because light, sun, vision, you can see through the ceiling. So Aisha said the Prophet ﷺ would pray Asr in the masjid, and the sun would be in her room before it got above it. Meaning the sun isn't above her room yet, but the light is still in her room. So you could tell the sun is right there, but the sun didn't get there. The actual qars, the actual disc didn't get there yet. That's one meaning. The second meaning is that he would pray Asr and the sun was in her room. So if you looked up out the ceiling, you would see what? You would see the sun. قَبْلَ أَن تَظْهَرَ, before it got behind the wall, right? Because if you got a wall and the sun is setting, if you look up, you don't see the sun above your head, it's behind the wall. So the second meaning of قَبْلَ أَن تَظْهَرَ is that he would pray Asr and the sun was in her room. It's still there above her room before it would go and leave her room. So if this is Dhuhr and this is Asr, that's the first meaning of the hadith. The second one means this, which still means the Prophet would pray Asr at what time? Early. The third meaning that some of them do is they say قَبْلَ أَن تَظْهَرَ and then they add the implied word al-fay, before the evening shadow would be visible in her room. How would the evening shadow be visible in her room? The sun, as it gets closer to the wall, right? The sun is still above, but now the shadow from the ceiling is reaching the other wall, right? So before this shadow got to the other wall, the Prophet would have already prayed, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would have already prayed Asr. All of them mean what? He would pray Asr early. Because once the sun got behind the wall, it's now in that declining stage. And that is the stage, some of them say that the Prophet would pray Asr and the sun was white. It's still high in the sky. It has that whiteness. Before it starts to set, once it starts to set, what color does it turn? Orange, right? And so he would pray before it got behind the wall, before it turned orange. And this is the meaning of qabla an tadhhar, before it got above, before it left out, or before the shadow appeared. It means one of those three things. Scholars disagree which one, but they all mean the same thing. واضح? طيب. So today we have the second hadith. The hadith, he says, قال أبو مصعب حدثنا مالك عن زيد بن أسلم عن عطاء بن يسار. طيب. Zayd ibn Aslam. The way I like to do it is, when you're doing an explanation, and this is for everything, when you're doing an explanation, how do you take it? One word at a time. Abu Mus'ab, we already talked about him, right? And we can talk about him again in review, but you should always remember who is Abu Mus'ab. Ahmed ibn Abu Bakr al-Qasim al-Zuhri al-Qurashi al-Zuhri al-Kilabi. Did you know, from the things that I didn't know, he is the great-great-great-grandson of Abdurrahman ibn Auf. He is the great-great-great-grandson of Abdurrahman ibn Auf, right? So he is Abu Mus'ab, Ahmed ibn al-Qasim, ibn Zurara, ibn Mus'ab, ibn Abdurrahman ibn Auf, right? And he was the judge of Medina during his time. Qadi al-Medina, after being the sheriff. He used to be the sheriff, the al-Shurta, used to be in charge of the police. And then the governor of Medina, Ubaydullah, I believe, put him in charge of the judges. Thiqatun imam. He was an imam, a faqih, a scholar of hadith and fiqh. Every one of the 6 books narrates from him directly, except Nasa'i, he narrates on somebody, on Abu Mus'ab. We mentioned about him before that he was one of the last people to narrate, if not the last person to narrate the Muwatta of Imam Malik. And his version of the Muwatta has about 100 extra narrations that isn't in the narration of Yahya ibn Yahya al-Laythi. Ad-Daraqutni, he used to put him above Yahya ibn Bukayr in hadith. And Baqi ibn Makhlad, the scholar of Andalus, when he narrated his Musnad, he had a big book known as a Musnad, bigger than the Musnad of Imam Ahmed. They got mad at him. I think it's Ubaydullah or Abdullah ibn Yahya al-Laythi. They got mad at him for not including Yahya ibn Yahya's Laythi in his Musnad. He included Abu Mus'ab's. And they got, why did you kick our grandfather and not use his chain to the Muwatta? You're Spain, we're Spanish, he's Spanish. Why didn't you use his chain? He said, because the Prophet said, Qaddimu Quraysh. Make Quraysh always go first. Right? So anyway, Abu Mus'ab, he died in the year, he was born in the year 150. Abu Mus'ab al-Zuhri, he was born in the year 150. So him and Shafi'i were twins. Right? Not brothers, no, they weren't blood twins. We use the word twin, lidatan. Lida in Arabic, somebody who was born the same year as you, right? So they were lidatan, right? They were twins. They were born in the same year.
Who died that year?
And the next thing was, they also were born the same year of who? Abu Hanifa died in. We talked about this, helps you memorize dates. You got 3 people, all with one date, 150. If he was born in 150, when did Malik die? 179. So you have how much time until Malik is dead? How old was he?
29.
So he had a good amount of time to get from Imam Malik. You see, he's a contemporary of Shafi in every sense of the word, right? Because Shafi's born 150, student of Imam Malik, they're twinsies. He died in the year 241, makes it easier, or 242, which is more accurate. 241, who died in 241?
Mama.
Imam Ahmed. And so you got all four Imams with one biography. He was born the year Shafi'i died. He studied with Imam Malik. He was born the same year Shafi'i was born, and he died the same year Ahmed died, on 92 years of age. Abu Mus'ab, he says, حدثنا Malik ibn Anas, right? Malik ibn Anas, Sahib al-Muwatta. We talked about him in depth. I just wanted to go over Abu Mus'ab because I know most of us probably forgot some of his details. But you should know everything you need to know about Malik ibn Anas ibn Malik ibn Abi Amr al-Asbahi, who was born in the year 93, the same year who died? Anas ibn Malik. And he died in the year 179. That's his year. Everybody else in 179, you're going to say that's the same year Malik died, right? Now, Malik ibn Anas قال حدثنا Malik and Zayd ibn Aslam. Zayd ibn Aslam, the freed slave of Umar. Mawla Umar ibn al-Khattab. He was the freed slave of Umar ibn al-Khattab, meaning his father, Aslam. And Aslam, his father, was from the slaves that were delivered to Medina during the time of Abu Bakr. The first slaves brought to Medina during the time of Abu Bakr were from an area known as Ain al-Tamar. Ain al-Tamar. Ain al-Tamar is a city in Iraq close to Karbala. Close to Karbala. And his father Aslam was from those slaves. The first slaves ever brought into Medina, his father Aslam was one of them. And his father Aslam was from the most noble of those slaves, right? From the highest and the most lofty of those slaves. He was freed by Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, and like father, like son. Zayd ibn Aslam was a scholar of hadith, a scholar of fiqh, and a scholar of especially tafsir. They said he was the most knowledgeable person in tafsir after Muhammad ibn Ka'b al-Quradi. Zayd ibn Aslam was from the most knowledgeable scholars of Medina in tafsir. And he used to be counseled, or they would seek his counsel along with people like Salim ibn Abdullah ibn Umar and Al-Qasim ibn Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr. Salim and Al-Qasim were two of the fuqaha as-sab'ah. They were two of the 7 scholars of Medina. You have to know who the 7 scholars of Medina are. We got 2 of them. Do we have any more?
Urwa.
Urwa. And we learned about Urwa ibn Zubair, ibn al-Awwam. La. Sufyan al-Thawri is Kufi. He's from Kufa. He wasn't one, and he's younger than them. These 7 scholars of Medina are all from Medina, and they all are from the Kibar al-Tabi'in. So we got إذا قيل من في الفقه 7 أبحر روايتهم عن علم ليس بخارجة. وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. إذا قيل من في الفقه 7 أبحر روايتهم عن فقه ليس بخارجة فهم عبيد الله عروة قاسم سعيد سليمان أبو بكر خارجة. Right? If it's asked of you, who are the 7 scholars of Islamic law, who their statements are never outside of knowledge, then they are Ubaydullah ibn Utbah, Ubaydullah ibn Abdullah ibn Utbah ibn Mas'ud. Ubaydullah ibn Abdullah ibn Utbah ibn Mas'ud, right? Ubaydullah ibn Abdullah ibn Utbah ibn Mas'ud. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud's great nephew or grandnephew, right? Urwa ibn Zubair ibn al-Awwam, فهم عبيد الله عروة قاسم al-Qasim ibn Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr, right? Abu Bakr's grandson. And Urwa was Abu Bakr's grandson on the mother's side because Asma was his mother. Sa'id ibn al-Musayyab. Sa'id ibn al-Musayyab, the son-in-law of Abu Hurairah. He married Abu Hurairah's daughter, and he was probably the highest of them, right? Sayyidul Tabi'een, the leader of the Tabi'een. For whom Ubayd Allahi Urwatu Qasimun, Sa'idun Sulaiman ibn Yasar. Who else was named Yasar ibn Yasar? Atah ibn Yasar. That's his brother, right? Sulaiman ibn Yasar was from the Fuqaha as-Sab'a. His brother, Atah's brother, was from the Fuqaha as-Sab'a. Sulaiman ibn Yasar, Sa'idun Sulaiman, Abu Bakr ibn Abdul Rahman ibn Harith ibn Hisham, right? Abu Bakr ibn Abdul Rahman ibn al-Harith ibn Hisham, or ibn Hashim, ibn Hisham. Abu Bakr ibn Abdul Rahman, that's Abu Bakr that they're referring to. And they disagree. Is it Abu Bakr, or do you switch him out with Salim ibn Abdullah ibn Umar, or do you switch them out with Abu Salama ibn Abdul Rahman ibn Auf? So the Fuqaha as-Sab'a are really Fuqaha Tis'a, because there's disagreement about them. And the last one is Kharija ibn Zayd ibn Thabit, right? Kharija ibn Zayd ibn Thabit. The point of all of that is, you're not going to memorize it right now, but make that something you memorize. These are names, especially in this Muwatta. You need to know those identities. إذا قيل من في الفقه سبعة أبهر روايتهم عن علم ليس بخارجة فهم عبيد الله عروة قاسم سعيد سليمان أبو بكر خارجة. If it's asked of you, who are the 7 oceans of knowledge, who their statements never exit outside of any good knowledge, then say Ubaydullah, Urwa, Qasim, Sa'id, Sulaiman, Abu Bakr, Kharija. And then you just know that Salim ibn Abdullah and Abu Salama ibn Abdul Rahman ibn Auf. And we said Abdul Rahman ibn Auf was the great-grandfather of Abu Mus'ab. Everything starts to, it's like they're your cousins now. You start to know them a little bit better. The point of all that was that Zayd ibn Aslam was close in quality to Al-Qasim and Salim. They used to seek his advice the same way they would seek the advice of Al-Qasim and Salim. And there's a nice story about it, about what to do if a free man marries a slave woman, or a slave man marries a free woman, and he pronounces divorce on her. What is the result? What happens? What's the iddah? And how many divorces does he have? They came to Zayd, he answered, and then they went to Qasim and Salim, and they gave the same answer. The point is that Zayd ibn Aslam, he was somebody who was revered. Muhammad ibn Ajlan. Muhammad ibn Ajlan, who was a major scholar of the people of Medina and somebody that they were scared of, right? Muhammad ibn Ajlan, he had haiba. You wouldn't mess with Muhammad ibn Ajlan. He said, I was never scared of anybody the way I was scared of Zayd ibn Aslam. And Malik said that Zayd said to Muhammad ibn Ajlan one time, go learn how to ask questions and then come back, right? Go learn how to ask questions and then ta'al. And it shows you that your teacher might be rough sometimes, but you have to do what? Be patient with it. Zayd ibn Aslam was somebody that Umar ibn Abdul Aziz used to keep in his counsel. And Ali ibn Hussein ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib. Ali ibn Hussein, who is known as Zayn al-Abidin, the decoration of all of the worshippers, right? He was a major imam. He died in the year 94, the year of the scholar. He died in the year 94, the year of the scholar. So he died before Zayd ibn Aslam. Ali ibn al-Hussein, he used to skip over the circles of his family. Who was his family? Ahlul Bayt. He used to skip the family of the Prophet. He used to skip over the circles of his family and cut in between the people to go sit with Zayd ibn Aslam. Muhammad ibn Jubair ibn Mut'im, he criticized him about this one day. He said, why are you leaving your people's circles and going to sit with the freed slave of Umar? He said the person sits and learns from the person sits with whoever can benefit him in their religion. And they used to say that I see the circles of Zayd ibn Aslam, 40 people, every single one of them scholars. Everything they had was shared amongst them. You wouldn't find two of them arguing about anything in the dunya except what could benefit them. The only things that they would talk about are things that were beneficial. They didn't care about the dunya. Like this was Zayd ibn Aslam. He died in the year 136, which is the same year Abu Ja'far al-Mansur became the Khalifa. Right? So Abu Ja'far al-Mansur, he was the second Khalifa and the real establisher of Bani Abbas. The Abbasid Khilafah, he was the main one who really established it. Abu Ja'far al-Mansur. And he's the one that told Imam Malik to write the Muwatta, right? Abu Ja'far al-Mansur. And he became the Khalifa the same year that Zayd ibn Aslam died. And there's more we could say about him, but that's it for now. His hadith can be found in all of the 6 books, Bukhari to Ibn Majah. And Zayd ibn Aslam, when he died? 136. Thiqah. If you don't remember anything else about him, Zayd ibn Aslam, thiqatun, alim, died 136. They don't mention when he was born. But obviously he's from, I want to say, al-Thalitha. He was from the 3rd tabaqa. And Ata ibn Yasar. Oh, I forgot to mention one thing. Zayd ibn Aslam, kunyatuhu Abu Usama. Kunyatuhu Abu Usama. It's important to know the kunyas of the individual. Zayd ibn Aslam.
Abu Abdullah.
Abu Usama. They also have Abu Abdullah, but most people know him as Abu Usama. And it's important to know the kuna because when names get confusing, that's how you tell the difference. And Ata ibn Yasar. Ata ibn Yasar, the children of Yasar were 4. Yasar had 4 children. Sulaiman, who was from who? Fuqaha as-Sab'a. Ata, who was the most knowledgeable of them about hadith. Ata aktharuhum hadithan wa kana qasan. He was a storyteller, and he was from the best storytellers of the people of the Sunnah. Most of the time you find that the storytellers are people upon innovation, people who add lies and invent statements against Allah and His Messenger. But Ata ibn Yasar was from the storytellers of the people on the Sunnah. And they say about him, he was afdalu qas. He was from the best of the storytellers. The other children of Yasar were Abdullah and Abdul Malik. All of them were they were slaves that were freed by Maymuna, our mother, the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Katabathum jami'ahum. Sheikh, he's not praying towards the Qibla. He's not praying towards the Qibla. Turn him around. Sheikh, turn your body to your right. There you go, right there. A little bit to your left, yeah, that's the Qibla. See to the Qibla, turn him, straighten him out. Straighten him out. You see the Qibla? Yeah. Like that. Mumtaz. Mumtaz. So, Maymuna, all four of them were thiqah. All four of the brothers were scholars of the religion, reliable. They were all freed by Maymuna. She did with them what is known as mukataba. Anybody know what is al-mukataba? وَالَّذِينَ يَبْتَغُونَ الْكِتَابَ مِمَّا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُكُمْ فَكَاتِبُوهُمْ. And those slaves that seek to be free from what you own, then let them purchase their freedom. If you have a slave and it wants to be free, Allah encourages you to let that slave purchase its freedom. إِنْ عَلِمْتُمْ فِيهِمْ خَيْرًا. If you know any good about them. So all four of these brothers, Maymuna, radiyallahu ta'ala anha, katabathum. She did this mukataba with them. And they all learned the religion from her. She was their sheikha, right? So you see that they have a high status in Islam. Ata ibn Yasar. They say he was born in the year 19. Some of them say he was born in the year 19, and we know he died, or they say he died when he was 92 years old. And some of them say that he died in Alexandria, Egypt, right? He was in Medina, and then he moved to Sham, and then he moved to Egypt. He moved to Misr, and some of them say he died in Misr. Some of them say the year he died, if he was born in 19, they say the year that he died was 103, right? Others say he died year 97. Ibn Hajar, and I prefer this one just because it makes things easier. Ibn Hajar says he died year 94. What is year 94? This is a year you need to know. What is year 94? It's the year of the scholar. They call it the year of the scholar because so many of the scholars died during that year. Zayn al-Abidin, Ali ibn al-Hussein, he died. Sa'id ibn Jubair, Sa'id ibn Musayyib, who died, Sa'id ibn Jubair, Sa'id ibn Musayyib, Zayn al-Abidin, and a couple of others. It's escaping me now who. They all died in this year. Several major scholars died in that year till they called that year the year of the scholar because of how many scholars died that year. And perhaps, according to Ibn Hajar, Ata ibn Yasar is one of them who died during that year. There's a lot more we could say about Ata ibn Yasar, but one thing that we will say about him is that he, just like Zayd, did something called irsal. What is irsal? We're going to see it right now. This hadith, Ata ibn Yasar, was he a sahabi? No, but he's telling us a story that happened between the Prophet ﷺ and a companion. What do we call that? Al-irsal. Mursal is what the hadith is. The person who narrated that hadith, what did he do? Irsal. طيب. Al-Iraqi, he says, مرفوع تابع على المشهور مرسل أو قيده بالكبير ثالثها ما منه راو سقط وأكثر استعمالا للذ فرق واحتج مالك كذا النعمان وتابعوهما به ودانوا ورده جماهر نقاد للجهل بالساقط في الإسناد. Al-Iraqi, he says, and this is important in the definition of what is irsal. When a tabi'i narrates on the Prophet, marfu', when they attach it to the Prophet, a tabi'i. If a tabi'i attaches it to the Prophet, it's mursal. And this definition is better than the definition of those who say it's the chain that is missing a sahabi. Does anybody know why? What's the difference? A tabi'i saying the Prophet said it, or a chain that is missing the sahabi? Which one? What's the difference? You understand the question?
One more time.
Is marfu' when a tabi'i says the Prophet said something, or a chain that is missing a sahabi?
Is it that the chain saying that's missing a Sahabi could be that Sahabi is majhul.
Well, it's missing the Sahabi.
So,
He said, أنه.
Well, we know he got it from Sahaba, right?
I'm asking you, what's the difference between these two expressions? Some of the people, when they explain a mursal, they say it's the chain saqata minhu sahabi, that the sahabi is missing. While others say, no, that definition is wrong. Mursal is when a tabi'i says the Prophet said. If that's the case, what's wrong with the first definition? What's the difference? A tabi'i says the Prophet said something, or mursal is when the sahabi's missing. What's the difference?
That's how you can say like prophets.
Yeah, the sahabi's missing.
It's just like the same thing.
منقطع.
it's not tadlis.
منقطع.
If the sahabi was missing, who is missing?
صحابي.
Does it matter?
No.
Does it matter which sahabi said it? Is a mursal hadith guaranteed that the person that is missing is the sahabi? Just because the person the tabi'i said the Prophet said it, right? So there's somebody missing, right? Some people say the definition is the chain that doesn't have the sahabi. We say if that definition was right, then what's missing? And if the sahabi is missing, the hadith is what? It's authentic. Because it doesn't matter which sahabi it is, does it?
But
There's
did
a
he meet a
Sahabi here.
Sahabi? That's the
Huh?
question. Did he meet a Sahabi?
Yeah, Atta bin Yasar made multiples. He's from Kibar
But did
tabi'in.
he meet this one?
جاء رجل.
He says, Ja'a rajulun.
That's what I was trying to say when I said majhul.
But was he there when that man went to the Prophet?
He'll be a Sahabi.
If he was, he would have been a sahabi. قلت الصواب أن من أدرك ما رواه بالشرط الذي تقدم يحكم بالوصل له كيف روى بقال أو عن أو بأن فسوى. When somebody uses this word أن, if they were there, it's connected. Like Zuhri. Zuhri said أن Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. Was Zuhri there? Yeah, we said Zuhri was there with Umar ibn Abdul Aziz and Urwa ibn Zubair. And Zuhri and Umar ibn Abdul Aziz akhara salah. Was Zuhri there?
Shihab.
Ibn Shihab, Zuhri. Yeah, was he there? Yes, we said he was there. So that hadith is what? Connected. Because he said, wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Because he said anna to an event that he witnessed. If you weren't there, then what are you doing? Your hadith is disconnected. Atta, was he there when this sahabi said that to the Prophet?
How does the poem go?
Huh?
What was the poem that you were
قلت الصواب أن من أدرك ما رواه بالشرط الذي تقدم يحكم بالوصل له كيف روى بقال أو عن أو بأن فسوى. Right, this is in al-Iraqiyya, al-Iraqiyya. The point of it is that Atta wasn't there, right? So his hadith is disconnected. No, Tadlis is when it's from who? Remember, we said Tadlis is this is why I said this is important. And I don't want to get so let's take a pause. Tadlis is when you say your teacher said something. Tafadhal, ya akhi.
Yes, how are we doing?
No problem.
So can I take this?
Of course, anything on the wall, feel free to take, inshallah. Tadlis is when you make it seem like you heard something from your teacher. Right? طيب. This is irsal. Irsal and tadlis are similar. We're about to explain it in a second, but there's a difference. What is tadlis? When you make me think I heard something, when you make me think you heard it from your teacher. Irsal is marfu'u tabi'i. Is when a tabi'i says the Prophet said it. And it is not only because the sahabi is missing. Because if it was only the sahabi missing, the hadith would be what? Authentic. It's because between the tabi and between the Prophet, there could be 9 people. The longest chain that we found, tabi'i on tabi'i on tabi'i on tabi'i, is 9 tabi'in in a row. And any one of them could have been weak. And since we don't know, وَرَدَّهُ جَمَاهِرُ النُّقَادِ لِلْجَهْلِ بِالسَّاقِطِ فِي الْإِسْنَادِ. The majority of the people of critical analyzation reject it. They say Mursal Hadith is weak because we don't know who is this in between the Tabi'i and the Prophet, right? We don't know who's there, right? So because of that, they reject it. So what is Mursal? When a Tabi'i says the Prophet said it. That's how it's usually used. There is another way that it's used. Sometimes, Ata, do we have any question that he is not a Sahabi? Do we have any question about that? No, we know for sure he's not a Sahabi. So we know for sure he didn't meet the Prophet ﷺ. We know for sure he didn't meet the person he's doing irsal from. They call that obvious irsal. Sometimes you have what they call irsal khafi, hidden irsal. What is tadlis?
Says you make it seem like you heard from
You made it seem like you heard from your teacher. Irsal al-khafi is when you made it seem like you heard it from somebody you never met that you could have met. He could have been your teacher. All of the ingredients for him to be your teacher were there, but you never met him. When you say he said something, that's what they call hidden irsal. But it is not tadlis, because tadlis, the person has to be your teacher. And hidden irsal is when the person is not your teacher, but maybe you didn't know that, right? And this is a difference. People do hidden irsal all the time, but we don't categorize them as mudallis, right? Because if you look, you'll say, oh, he never heard from that person. There's another type of irsal, irsal al-sahaba, where the sahabi says that he makes you think he heard something from the Prophet, but he didn't. The sahabi makes you think he heard something from the Prophet, but he didn't. For example, Al-Hasan ibn Ali only heard 4 hadith from the Prophet ﷺ. Every other hadith from Al-Hasan, he never heard it from the Prophet ﷺ. Ibn Abbas, radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma, he was maybe 10, maybe 13 when the Prophet died, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Most of his hadith, did he hear them from the Prophet? Abu Hurairah, he's telling you hadith about what happened in the beginning of Islam. Aisha, how did revelation start with the Prophet? The first thing he used to do was go to the cave. How she know? Was she there? She wasn't even born yet. What is this called? Irsal, not al-khafi, not al-jali, irsal al-sahaba. The sahaba do irsal. But the irsal of the sahaba, don't worry about it. It's okay. Because all of the sahaba are what? Fiqh. And it is most likely, we can't say 100%, because sometimes the sahabi would narrate on the tabi'i. But it is most likely that if a sahabi is narrating that the Prophet ﷺ did it, they got it from another sahabi. So that is an example of the person that is missing is who? The sahabi. There's one more meaning of irsal, right? The last meaning of irsal is munqati. Anything that is disconnected. Anything that is missing a person, they call it mursal. But the later generation, we call it munqati. So you have irsal where a tabi'i says the Prophet said. You have irsal khafi, where I make you think I heard from somebody who was not my teacher, but could have been. You have irsal as-sahaba, which is, it's not a big deal. And then you have irsal in its general sense of the word, which just means disconnected. It's missing a person. The older scholars, like Malik and like Abu Hanifa, used to say that a hadith that's mursal is an evidence. it's authentic. The later scholars said no, because we don't know who's missing. Shafi'i takes a position in between. If the person who was doing irsal was from the older tabi'een, and he only narrated on reliable people, because you'll find, like we mentioned, Muhammad ibn Ajlan, Imam Malik, people like this, some of the scholars, Zayd ibn Aslam, they used to only narrate on authentic people. One time they asked Zayd ibn Aslam, where'd you get this from? He said, Ya akhi, you think we were sitting with idiots? You think we used to sit around the idiots? Right? Where you think we got it from, right? So for this reason, you find that the older scholars like Malik and Abu Hanifa, they would say a hadith that's mursal is authentic. And their madhab uses them as a direct proof. While the later scholars like Imam Ahmed and others, then they would say, no, a mursal hadith is weak. We don't know who's missing. We need to grade it. And then people like Shafi'i would be in the middle, right? If the person was an older tabi'i who only narrated on authentic people and didn't used to contradict other narrations that had a chain, they would say take it. And you find examples of this in a lot of books, right? To such an extent, and this is the strange portion, that they would say that a mursal hadith is more authentic than a hadith with a chain. Why? Some of them would say a mursal hadith is more authentic than a hadith with a chain.
Which mursal?
Any mursal.
Any mursal.
If a scholar gave you a hadith without a chain, they would say that it was more authentic than the hadith with the chain.
So confident.
Exactly. Because he is telling you, I did all the work. This chain is good. But the reality is that a mursal hadith, more likely than not, is weak. That being the case, this hadith is mursal. Why would Imam Malik bring it in his book? And especially if Imam Malik's book is supposed to be the most authentic book of its time. Mumtaz. It's a simple answer. Imam Malik said it's what? Sahih. To Imam Malik, this hadith is 100% sahih. Right? You don't need to worry about anything else. To Imam Malik, this hadith is 100% sahih. To Imam Shafi'i, you might even say this hadith is sahih. Right? Play. Abshiru. This hadith, we found it with a chain connected to the Prophet ﷺ. Rawahu Tirmidhi. It was reported by a Tirmidhi. Tirmidhi reports it on Ali ibn Hujr. He says, قال أخبرنا علي بن حجر قال حدثنا إسماعيل قال حدثنا حميد and Anas رضي الله تعالى عنه. Right? So this chain with Tirmidhi is connected on Ali ibn Hujr, on Ismail, I think Ismail ibn Ulayya, on Humayd ibn al-Tawil, on Anas ibn Malik. And we have the wordage of the hadith here if anybody needs it later. It's very similar, right? And it seems to be the event that Ata ibn Yasar was referencing. But there is no version that is connected from Ata. Right? So if you see somebody saying Ata said on this Sahabi, there is no version that includes it. That Sahabi. And obviously this hadith has support from other hadith. The most famous of them is the hadith of Jabir, where the angel Jibril prayed with the Prophet ﷺ 2 times. And one of them he prayed Fajr, the moment Fajr broke. And the second day he prayed Fajr when it was bright. So that's what relates to the science of hadith, of this hadith. We know mursal, we know mudallas, we know mu'an'an. He says, "An Zayd ibn Aslam and Ata ibn Yasar annahu qala ja'a rajulun ila Rasulillahi sallallahu alaihi wasallam." None of the narrations mention who this man was. None of the narrations mention who this man was. So this man is called Mubham. Mubham. His identity is unknown. We talked about before, unknown people, there are, we can say, 5 categories of unknown people. The most severely unknown, mubham. A person who we don't know nothing about him. A man, a black guy, a tall person, a person who used to be with, right? So-and-so. That person, we don't know anything about him. That person is called what? Mubham. And some people call him majhul al-dhat. His identity is unknown. The second type of unknown person is what they call majhul, unknown. And unknown has 3 levels. That's why we say 5. Unknown in his self. Majhul al-ain. Right? And this is where the English becomes problematic. Right? He is unknown. Majhul al-ain, it means he only has one student. He only has one student. Only one person has ever narrated a hadith from him. If you have a rawi who only one person has ever narrated from, that person is considered what? Majhul al-ain. He is unknown. Then you have the second type, what they call majhul al-zahir wal-batin. He is unknown. He has more than one student. So he has 2 or more people who have narrated from him. But nobody has ever spoken good or bad about him. And we don't know enough about him to judge his character. We don't know enough about them to judge their apparent character, and nobody has ever spoken good or bad about them. This person is majhul al-zahir wal-batin. He is unknown outwardly and inwardly. The third type of majhul, which is the more prominent one, is majhul, they call him al-hal. His condition is unknown. He has 2 or more students, and he has a biography that is big enough that we can kind of make a determination about him outwardly. But nobody has ever spoken good or bad about him. Nobody has ever said he's a good guy or he's a bad guy. That person they call majhul al-hal. His condition is unknown. Majhul al-batin. He is unknown inwardly. All of these people are weak. Al-mubham, weak, until we identify him. Majhul al-ain, weak, until we find another narration that supports what he narrated. Majhul al-zahir wal-batin wa majhul al-hal, weak, until we find somebody who Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. SubhanAllah. You see how Allah saves you with the sunnah? You see how Allah saves you with the sunnah? Wallahi, bidirasatikum as-sunnah. حفظكم الله من البدعة. دخلوا عليكم. The people of bid'ah came into you. They came here, يتصيدون. They were trying to hunt you. They were looking for you. وبقراءتك حديث الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم, what'd they do? خلاص. They gave up hope. They gave up hope of you. We don't have a chance. Allah يحفظكم بالسنة. Allah يحفظكم بالسنة. The point is that all of these people are weak. Al-Mubham, until we have somebody, because we given up hope of knowing who he is. So we need another narration that says the same thing. Al-Majhul Al-Ain, the person who he is unknown. He has a student. We know who he is. He is Muhammad ibn so-and-so. But he only has one student. There's nothing that can fix that, right? You're not known with seeking knowledge. You only got one student. You're not known as a teacher, right? So we need support for your narrations. A person who is unknown inwardly and outwardly, we don't know enough about you. You got two students. People narrated from you, but tell me about this guy. We're not like the Christians and the Jews who just take from somebody because we know their name and know their father's name. In Majhul al-Hal, yeah, we know you. I know where you were born even. But I know about your biography, but who said you were a good guy? Right? So all of these people are weak. How many unknown people have we mentioned so far? Four. The fifth one is what they call, I'm trying to make sure I get the word right because I don't want to say the wrong word in Arabic in the science of hadith. I want to say it's muhtamal, but I'm not sure if that's the right word. Don't quote me on the word right now. But muhtamal, it means that this person could be him or him. I don't know which one he is. Like when you say Muhammad said. Which Muhammad? Right? I need to know which Muhammad you're talking about. When you say Haddathana Hammad, Haddathana Sufyan, Haddathana Abdullah, which one are you talking about? I need to know which one it is. If I cannot identify which one it is, and one of them is weak, I have to reject the narration until I can find which will let me know which one it is. If I cannot figure out which one it is and both of them are authentic, then it doesn't matter. Like if you say Haddathana Sufyan, well, which one is it? Is it Ibn Uyayna or Thawri? They both had the same teachers. They both had the same students. They were both on the same tabaqa. They both narrated the similar hadith. I don't know which one narrated this hadith. Which one is it? It's undecipherable. The narrator only said Haddathana Sufyan. That hadith is what? Sahih. Because Sufyan al-Thawri, Sufyan al-Uyayna, it don't make a difference. Right? They're both imams. But if one of them is weak, then the whole narration becomes weak because I can't determine. Amongst these unidentified people, there is the Sahaba. Does the identity of the Sahabi matter? No. Because all of the Sahaba, Allah deemed them to be udul. Allah vouched for their righteousness. So a man from the Sahaba, does it matter which one? And to this day, we don't know. A man from the Sahaba came to the Prophet. جاء رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فسأله عن وقت صلاة الصبح and asked him about the time of the morning prayer. The morning prayer has multiple names. Al-Fajr, Al-Subh, Al-Falaq, Al-Sadi', right? Al-Khayt al-Abyad, right? All of these are different ways that they used to refer to Al-Fajr. So he came to the Prophet ﷺ asking him about morning prayer. To which the Prophet ﷺ فَسَكَتَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَمَ عَنْهُ. The Prophet did not answer him. Like, question. Somebody comes to you asking you about the religion. What do you have to do?
If you don't know,
If you don't know, this is the messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He knows.
قل الخير والناس.
But maybe he didn't have
shown.
wahy.
There's a principle in Islam. لا يجوز تأخير البيان عن وقت الحاجة. It is not permissible, and this is by consensus. Everybody agrees to this. You cannot delay clarifying the haqq past the moment it's needed. If the haqq needs to be mentioned right now, you can't put it off for later when it needs to be mentioned right now. You cannot delay clarifying the haqq past the moment it is needed. لا يجوز تأخير البيان عن وقت الحاجة. It is not permissible to delay the truth past the moment it is needed. Everybody understand? Like the Prophet ﷺ didn't answer this man.
It's Jibreel was showing it to him, right?
La, 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 la. This is a different scenario. This is not the hadith of Jibreel where the Prophet, where Jibreel. This is a man came during Isha. A man came later in the night, whether it was Isha or Maghrib, he came later in the night. Right? It might have even been Asr, based on some of the narrations. Salli ma'ana ghadin. Pray with us tomorrow. The point of it is that a man came and asked the Prophet ﷺ, when is it Fajr time? When is the time for Fajr? Imagine you. We just prayed Isha. Somebody walks in the masjid. New shahada, because these Sahaba were all what? New shahadas, right? New shahada walks into the masjid. Assalamu alaikum wa kayfa al-hal. MashaAllah, I just prayed Isha with you. When is Fajr time? How do I know when it's Fajr time? Can you say, talk to me tomorrow?
For the prophets.
We said by consensus, it is not permissible to delay the haqq past the moment of necessity. So what did the Prophet do here? You understand why this is an important point? Because when you look at it, it looks like the Prophet did what? They say that there is a difference between the point of necessity and the point of, or delaying it to the point of necessity. You cannot delay it past the point of necessity. But can you delay it to the point of necessity? Yes. Because the Prophet did what? He told them, pray with us tomorrow. And then the Prophet did what? Prayed. فَصَلَّ مِنَ الْغَدْ حِينَ طَلَعَ الْفَجْرِ. He prayed the next morning when Fajr came. ثُمَّ صَلَّ مِنَ الْغَدْ بَعْدَ أَنْ أَسْفَرَ. Right, and then he prayed the next day after it had became bright. And then he said, where's the person who asked? مَا بَيْنَ هَذَيْنِ وَقْتٍ. Right? So did the Prophet delay it past the point of necessity? He said no. He delayed it to the point of necessity. You can put off telling somebody what to do until they need to do it. You understand?
Yeah.
You can put off telling somebody what to do until they need to do it. The Prophet ﷺ, how did he teach the people how to pray? What was his statement? You all know it. Sallu kama ra'aytum. Why didn't he just say, you put your right hand like this, you do this, you do that, you do this, you did that? Did he tell them what to do? No, he just said, look at me and do it. So he delayed telling them until the moment of necessity. When do you have to pray? Prayer time. So when it's prayer time, just watch me. When it came to Hajj, what did he tell the people? خُذُوا عَنِّي مَنَاسِكَكُمْ. Take the way you do Hajj from me. Hajj is 3 days long, 4 days long, 5 days long. He could have told them, okay, the first day when you guys, we're going to do this. And then when we get to Muzdalifah, we're going to do this. And make sure you're here and there when this happens. But he didn't do that. He just showed them at the time of necessity. So you can delay the haqq to the point of necessity, but you cannot delay the haqq after the point of necessity. Also, this hadith shows us that showing by action that which is done by action is usually more effective than a statement. When it comes time to teach, showing is better than telling. وهذا حديث نبوي. ليس الخبر كالمعاينة. Information is not like seeing. So that's a hadith of Ibn Abbas في المسند. ليس الخبر كالمعاينة. Hearing is not, or information is not like seeing. So the Prophet delayed the truth, not past the point of necessity, but to the point of necessity. Some of them, they say, what if you're doing that and you die beforehand? Right? Maybe somebody asks you, Ya Abu, what time is Fajr? He said, come tomorrow in the morning, I'll show you. But then you die.
Who does it? The show? Or
The shower.
Oh, okay.
Did you delayed the haqq, and now this person doesn't have it. We say the Prophet was safe from this happening to him, because Allah guaranteed him that he would not die, yarhamukallah, until he clarified the religion. So for you, you might not want to delay the haqq, but you have the right to delay the haqq up till the point of necessity, right? And that's a benefit. Anyway, he says, so a man came to the Prophet ﷺ and he asked him about waqt salat al-subh. فَسَكَتَ أَنْهُ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صلى الله عليه وسلم يرحمك الله حتى إذا كان من الغد صلى الصبح حين طلع الفجر. By consensus, this is the moment Fajr begins, right? When the true dawn breaks. And the true dawn is that long dawn, that light, that white light that spreads across the horizon, yarhamukallah, horizontally, and becomes visible to all. And that's a big, important part about it. Because when we get into fiqh, when we get into siyam, the Fajr has to be visible by who? It has to be muntashir. It has to be visible by the people. If you're the only guy that can see it, is it Fajr time? Right, and that's when you see the Sahaba, some of them would eat, and some of them would say it was after Fajr. Like Ibn Abbas, he asked two of his companions, has the Fajr come in yet? And one of them said yes, the other one said no. He said, yeah, I disagree. And he kept eating. Why? Because the Fajr, for it to be truly Fajr, it has to be muntashira. It has to be that widespread whiteness across the horizon that everybody can really see, right? So the Prophet delayed the salat to the next day. حتى إذا كان من الغد صلى الصبح حين طلع الفجر ثم صلى الصبح من بعد من الغد بعد أن أسفر ثم صلى الصبح من الغد بعد أن أسفر. And then the next day he prayed the subh, the fajr, after asfar. طيب. What is al-isfirar? Or al-isfar, I'm sorry. What is al-isfar? Al-isfar here means it became bright. Right? That time when it is bright right before the sun has risen. It's daytime. Everybody can see where they're going. There's no more darkness, but the sun hasn't risen yet. That is waqt al-isfar in this hadith. The next day he prayed ba'da an asfar. And then he asked, where is the one who was questioning about the waqt, the time of salat? The person said, ha ana dha ya Rasulullah. Here I am, O Messenger of Allah. There's a lot of benefits in that. Obviously, some of the narrations the Prophet told the person to pray with us, but it shows the Sahaba, they would pray with the Prophet ﷺ in his masjid to learn the religion. This is early on, probably in Medina. It appears to be the case. Secondly, teaching after Fajr, right? When we look at where, like how we adopt certain things, right? Some of those jama'at that we've just experienced, they like to make arguments against us when we talk about how the way that they do things is innovative. And they'll say something to you like, well, you guys teach after Fajr, and that's not from the Sunnah. You guys just found it to be a good time to teach, so you teach. And we found this to be a good way of giving dawah, so we give dawah. We say, first of all, there's a difference. But second of all, why do we teach after Fajr? Prophet taught after Fajr. It's a good time to teach, right? And we have a prophetic example of why there should be teaching and lessons after Fajr. The Prophet ﷺ would sit with the Sahaba after Fajr. He would interpret dreams. He would talk about the dunya. He would teach. All of this would happen after Fajr. Who from amongst you has visited a sick person? Who from amongst you has fed a poor person? Like he would have conversations with the people after Fajr. طيب. The man said, here I am, O Messenger of Allah. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, what is between the two times is, what is between the two is the time. The last thing we want to say is, like, we know when Fajr starts. The next question is, when does Fajr end? Without a doubt, and this is something that you have to know by consensus, Fajr ends once the sun has risen. Once the sun has begun to rise, Fajr is over. Fajr is over once the sun begins to rise. That being the case, Imam Malik, in one of his statements, says Fajr ends when things turn bright. Fajr ends when things turn bright before the sunrise. And his proof is this hadith, as well as the other hadith, because Jibreel prayed with the Prophet 2 times, when it was dark and when it was bright before the sun rose. And he says what is in between the two is the time, i.e. what is after the two is not the time. But the majority of the scholars, including Imam Malik in another opinion, say that time goes all the way up till the sun rises, because of the hadith of who? Abi Hurairah. Whoever catches a rak'ah of Fajr before the sunrise, then he caught a subh. What's the point? Is there a point in this difference of opinion? The point is that if a woman comes off of her period after it has become bright, before the sun rises, does she have to pray Fajr? For example, a woman comes off of her period before the sun rises, but after it's bright. She needs to go take a ghusl. She takes a ghusl, the sun has risen. Does she need to make up Fajr or not?
She follows that opinion.
If you follow the opinion of Malik, on the surface you would say no, she doesn't, because the time for Fajr was over. And if you follow the opinion of everyone else, you would say yes, she does. And it shows us that the opinion of everybody else is right, the fact that Imam Malik said yes, she does. Right? So even though he has an opinion like this, that the time is over, he still says she has to make up for Fajr. The last thing we wanted to say, I said that was the last thing, but there's one more thing. Which time is better?
We're not going to get to all that.
We're about to finish it right now. This hadith is simple. It's 3 statements.
Yeah, finish it.
Beginning.
Huh?
Beginning.
Some people say it's all the same. And this is the Zahiriyah. They say it's all the same because the Prophet said what is between the two is the time. And they say it's not better the beginning or the end. Some of them say it's when it's bright. And this is the opinion of the people of Iraq, like Abu Hanifa and Sufyan al-Thawri and other than them. And it is attributed to Ali and Ibn Mas'ud. And this is because there is a hadith where the Prophet says, now the word of the hadith is escaping me. The meaning of it is, as long as the brighter it is when you pray, the better your salat is. Right? I got to get the wordage of the hadith real quick. قوله صلوا كما رأيتموني يصلي الصواب الإسفار اختيار هذا الحديث. Okay, here it is. He says, it's the hadith of Rafi ibn Khadij. He says, أسفروا بالفجر فكلما أسفرتم فهو أعظم للأجر. The Prophet said, أسفروا بالفجر. Be bright with Fajr. Because the brighter it is the better for your reward. We said Ali, Ibn Mas'ud, and the people of Iraq. And they also say that this is better because it's easier on the people. And they say especially in the summertime. Because the summertime, the night is short. And so making everybody pray Isha 2 or 3 hours later, pray Fajr, no. Let them go to the end of it, the last portion of the time. The third opinion, which is the opinion of the Jumhur, is that praying in the early portion is better when it's dark. Because of the hadith of Aisha and the hadith of others, where the Prophet ﷺ, he said, the hadith of Farwa, where he said, أفضل أحب الأعمال إلى الله الصلاة لأول وقتها. The best actions to Allah is praying at the beginning of the time. And they respond to that group who says, أسفروا بالفجر بالصبح. They say what is meant by that is make sure it's not still nighttime. Make sure that the dawn is around. Make sure that it's actually happened. Make sure, and they say because the word asfara, When you say about a woman who takes off her niqab, you say she did what? Asfara in wajhiha. And so it doesn't mean make it bright. It means make sure Fajr has actually entered. And the more you've made sure Fajr has actually entered, it's the greater for your reward. In any circumstance, the stronger opinion is that the best time is when it's still dark because of the action of the Prophet, Abu Bakr, Umar, and Uthman, and the statements of the Sahaba like Umar, which we're going to see soon. وَالْفَجْرَ وَالصُّبْحَ وَالنُّجُومِ بَادِيَةٌ مُشْتَبِكَةٌ هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.